I'm Amanda Leitner, and welcome to Rochester Rising, where we amplify the stories of Rochester entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode 225 of the podcast. Here on the Rochester Rising podcast, we really believe in something called inspiration capital. And basically, this means sharing the stories of all kinds of entrepreneurs with many different pathways to business ownership, with the hope that you, the listeners, will see yourself within the stories that we tell. We produce and put out a new podcast every Wednesday, talking with a Rochester entrepreneur to understand more about their business and why they are driven to create. Each week, we also release a short article on our Rochester Rising website based on the podcast conversation. We encourage you to check out both and all of the stories of entrepreneurship that we tell on our website at rochesterrising.org. You can find our podcast really wherever you listen into podcast content. You obviously found it somehow, but you can find it on our website as well as through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on our YouTube channel, or really wherever you like to listen into podcast content, we are there. So check us out and make sure that you are subscribed. Rochester Rising is the storytelling arm of Collider. Collider is a Rochester-based nonprofit that works to activate, connect, and empower early-stage entrepreneurs within the Rochester, Minnesota ecosystem. You can find out more about Collider and what this organization does to help entrepreneurs on our website at collider.mn. So today on the podcast, I got to chat in person with local entrepreneurs Hema Sai Kishore and Mangesh, founders of Eureka Kids Childcare Center, a facility that opened its doors in Northwest Rochester in July of 2018. Eureka Kids was developed out of a need these entrepreneurs saw in the community for more childcare options, especially one focused on multiculturalism and diversity. Today on the podcast, we talk with this husband and wife team about how they balance family life and full-time jobs at Mayo Clinic with their work at Eureka Kids. We also talk about the building and launch of the childcare center in the community, how they navigated 2020, what keeps drawing them back to this type of work, and much more. So we'll launch right into the podcast with Hema Sai Kishore and Mangesh with Eureka Kids Childcare Center. All right. Well, Hema, Mangesh, thanks so much for being here today, doing a podcast and talking about kind of your entrepreneurial journey here in Rochester. I appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting us, Amanda.
So I wanted to start, and how I start talking with everybody, can you talk a little bit about where you're from and how you got here in Rochester?
Well, as you know, I'm Hema Sai Kishore, and I'm here with my husband Mangesh. Both of us come from India, and I grew up in the southern part of India, and Mangesh in the central part of India. As you know, India is diverse, and growing up, I was brought up in a joint family, a family of 25 people. We had a lot of, all the siblings were together growing up, around 12 kids, I suppose. Now, looking back, I feel we had a mini daycare at home. And at my age of 20, I got married to my ex-husband and moved into a different state and a town in India. Had a difficult marriage, but did overcome all the challenges, completed my education. And in 2011, my ex-husband passed away due to cancer. And in 2014, I traveled to US through my job in IBM. Came to Texas, in Dallas, and eventually we both connected. And got married in 2015.
I came to Rochester in 1999, so I've been living in this town for quite some time. It's about 20 plus years, I guess, right? I am from Bombay, Mumbai, India. So I grew up in a big city. So when I moved here, I really loved the town because of the sheer size and diversity. Like her story, I have my story. I went through a difficult marriage and got divorced and had to fight for the custody of the kids and all. In 2014, we got connected through online group, and immediately we had a bonding. So I texted her, she texted me, and then she has 2 kids, I have 2 kids, and our kids also gelled in really well. And then we went to each other's place, and then decided to marry and stay in Rochester. So we have 4 kids, ranging from 22, 18, 16, and 10 years old. So 4 amazing kids, and we have a 2-3-year-old dog, Mayo. That's our family. So
Yes. Yeah, I remember now I remember a lot of your story now. You reminded me. I probably met you, Hema, in 2016, something like that. Maybe a little bit later. I can't quite remember. At a chamber event.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm remembering. That refreshed my memory a lot. So yes. No, that is such a cool story. And you both are engineers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And still kind of doing that full time, which is super cool that you have something that you're doing every day and then doing something following a completely different passion with Eureka Kids. So yeah, which is super cool. So can you talk a little bit about Eureka Kids? So what is it for people who aren't familiar? We'll start with that. What was kind of the vision, and what does Eureka Kids offer in the community?
So, like you said, we both work in IT, information technology. That's our full-time job. But Hema, coming from her, she grew up in a.
Growing up, I was brought up by my grandfather, and he was an entrepreneur. So my motivation was him as a person. He had a appliance business, and as kids we participated and helped him in the business, and he started from the scratch and grew and ensured that all his kids and his grandkids were taken care of. So he was a big motivation for me, and that passion was always within me, where I wanted to do something. What I saw growing up, the way he did, I was fascinated the way he did things. So after we got together and we got married, and I saw a good companion in my partner. When I saw that, I felt, I can accomplish my dreams at this point. And that is where we started looking at what are the different options we have. What could we do different from what we are doing in our daily life? As you said, I work as a senior project manager at Mayo, and he is a lead analyst at Mayo. So we were looking at different options, and we realized that there was a great need in the community, and there was a huge shortage for the childcare. There were a lot of articles that were popping up at that point in time where the shortage of the childcare was highlighted. And that is where we felt we had the passion for kids as well. So we felt we should open a childcare center, which could possibly, we look into the aspects of diversity, and Rochester being a diverse community, we felt we need to ensure that the kids understand the diversity and that multicultural aspects as they are growing up, which would help them as adults. So that was the main focus with which we started the center.
And then I think we did a lot of research, to see how we should actually build our childcare center and how it should be different than the rest of the centers. We had multiple options. One is to basically go with the franchise or do our own. So we decided to basically start up on our own, like a ground up facility, so that we could implement based on our vision. A brand new facility, space for kids to play indoor, outdoor, plus a facility for new moms so they can nurse their babies, a staff lounge, and full-time kitchen. So a lot of things were taken into account. And another thing was basically we created our own curriculum or approach. So we started from STEM, and then STEM became STEAM, and then we added basically 2 R's and created a smarter approach that basically takes care of science, mathematics, arts, reading, technology, engineering, relationships. All of these aspects are very critical for the sooner we introduce these topics to kids, better it is for them to be a successful person in their life.
So you both developed the curriculum? That
Along
was super
with
cool.
yeah,
I did not appreciate that you had come up with it. So what was that process like? How do you even start doing something like that?
So it was then that the STEM and STEAM were so popular, and learning through that, understanding more about it, we realized that the 2 key components, which is relationships and reading is so critical from that small age, where reading improves knowledge for the kids, and relationship aspect is very important as well. So that's where we felt those 2 critical aspects need to be focused. And it was very coincidental that we could come up with S.M.A.R.T.E.R, and we could add those 2 R's, and it formed the S.M.A.R.T.E.R curriculum.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And yeah, I think so important too with kids today, getting that science education early, so important, especially for, little girls. Like, I've had this conversation with people before. When I was growing up, probably when you were growing up too, Hema, there's no women in science or technology that you even can look at as an example. So, being social, and the only thing I knew about science, like my role model growing up was Rachel Carson, if you know who that is. She wrote Silent Spring, and a huge conservationist, and actually grew up right down the road from me. So she was like a huge influence. That's what I knew about science, was like wildlife conservation, which is extremely important, but I had no concept of research and technology. So important to have that early.
Right.
Some of the things that we have done is, we offer cooking classes, yoga classes,
And
dance class.
From within the facility.
Within the facility. So some of our teachers, either they do that activity with older kids, preschool or pre-K, or we basically bring somebody from outside. So kids can be exposed to meditation, yoga, things like that, and that has actually helped us a lot. Again, this was pre-pandemic. Once we were hit with the pandemic, we had to basically pause all these things. So we'll basically resume those when things go back to normal. So that is one thing that is different. Also, we have focused more on diversity. We see that in our staff, all the families that we have. We are very fortunate for all the families that we have in our center. Most of them come from medical background, different cultures, and they're more than happy to basically share their experiences, their cultural experiences or their professional experiences by visiting center and talking to kids. I remember we had some sessions where they came and talk about heart, how the heart works.
We had a cardiologist who came in with the model of a heart, and the preschool pre-K kids were so interested to look at it and explore. And then we had recently a dentist had come in and shared about how to take care of the tooth and so on. So those kind of activities which makes motivates the kids and create that interest towards science. We try to cover those aspects. Of course, the safety, security, and nurturing of the child is nowhere compromised. Those are the basic needs. So what we are saying here is above and beyond the safety, security aspects. What we do in addition that differentiates us.
Yeah.
And then our facility is actually secured, so all the families, they have their own codes. they cannot, before they go to the kids area, they have to go to the fingerprinting. So that has been taken care of. We do have cameras, so we can watch the kids all the time. So some of those things are already, like basic things have already taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a few Spanish speaking or other language speaking staff, and they do share their experiences or introduce the language to kids, and sometimes that actually helps too. So.
Yeah.
And we also celebrate the multicultural festivals that come up. Say, for example, right now Ramadan is going on, and we try to introduce that to the kids. That way, they are aware. Growing up, they are aware. Okay, there is this different culture, this different festival that people celebrate out there, and parents also come in and participate by giving gifts to the kids or talk to them about how they celebrate the festival and so on.
Yeah, no, I think that is so cool. I was actually just listening to a podcast yesterday talking about perspective and like what perspective are you sharing through your business and your vision. And I think this is an amazingly very cool and full perspective from the science, the culture to, general wellness with yoga and meditation for little kids. I mean, that has to be, I'm sure challenging, but very rewarding too. That someone can meditate, hopefully, instead of like having a tantrum or something. And cooking,
And kids love that. We had an overwhelming response in almost all of these sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that is really, really cool, really, really creative, and fun to see that coming forward in the community. Because I remember when it opened, and it was so fun to come and look at it and see all your hard work, coming forward, which had to have been an amazing feeling. I mean, all that work, all that time researching, and then you see it open up and be able to fill a need and help people in the community. That's a large undertaking.
Above and beyond starting this year, we have also introduced the multicultural cuisine so that, even in food, we have started bringing in that multicultural foods, mostly what the kids would prefer, so that way they don't hate.
But it's good to get, a well-rounded view early and try different things so then, you're not afraid to try different things later, right? Or you're exposed to it. So, I think that is super, super cool. So, Eureka Kids was a brand new construction, right?
Yes.
Right. That had to have been a massive undertaking. So, how did you choose... What was it like to, find your location, start that process? Because I know exactly where you are, but to describe it, you're off West Circle Drive, right behind, there's a gas station, past the gas station. So how did you choose that location, and what was kind of that build-out process like?
So, once we decided basically we wanted to have our own center, we started looking for vacant lands. To be honest, actually, we saw probably 4 or 5 places, and just happened that this came up, and then we just liked it so much because of the location. It's right in the junction where people coming from Byron basically can go, and plus, it's right in the very close to the downtown Rochester. So once we found the land, it was not that difficult because we kind of know how to deal with the real estate transactions because we have a few more properties that we have rented out. So we just approached our realtor and then went from there. The difficult part was basically what do we do once we have land, because it's a brand new construction and something that we have never done, like a big childcare center. But we had done a lot of research, like what kind of a building we want, and then what kind of a rooms or facilities, fixtures, furnitures we want. So we had kind of pretty much laid out our kind of a high-level architecture diagram. And once we had that, we basically assembled team and then went from there. Do you want to explain this process?
We started visiting we did visit some other childcare centers, and we had few people from other centers who helped us and who guided us on how to, and give us those initial leads. So the first thing was to find a bank that would fund us, and so we approached like 6 or 7 banks to see who would be best suitable for our need. And so we finally decided, and we are banking with Minvest Bank. Their logo says "Doers Welcome," and we felt that was so appropriate for them because we wanted to do a lot, and we were in that process where we were trying to find out an appropriate bank who could help us, and that kind of came as an opportunity for us. Then the next step was to find the right builder, and our realtor did help us and provide us with certain leads, and we did narrow down from that. And the builder that we chose had experience building
a childcare
center,
so
which they just recently completed, and that was a great help to us.
Yeah.
So he also had a good amount of knowledge on how all that stuff worked. Plus our research that we have put in, everything combined, we worked with the architect to come up with a plan, and then got started on the process. But it was a lot of work that we had to put in, doing a lot of research, trying to understand at the same time, going through those process at the same time. So we are doing research and we are at the same time implementing. It took almost like 10 months for the construction to complete. So we would have started somewhere late 2017, and the center, the construction was completed July of 2018, beginning of July of 2018, and then the next phase was to get the licensing completed. So we had the licensing visit, everything went well, and we opened the center on July 30th.
One thing, Amanda, actually, there's so much resources available on internet. You can pretty much Google everything. We did that. Like Hema said, we visited a lot of different centers. We also consulted a few folks who were in this industry for a long time, especially to understand all the licensing requirements. Because one thing is to build a facility, other thing is to understand how to run the facility. So that was very helpful. We consulted like 2 or 3 consultants in the business, and they helped us basically create all the policies, procedures, and all those things.
So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
And you're doing this all the time where you're holding down full-time jobs and having a family of 4 kids and a dog, which is maybe not the dog at that point. That's a lot. That's a lot. And, yeah. Even looking at 4 or 5 properties, I don't feel like that's that much. But, yeah, it's still a lot of time, It's a lot of time and perseverance, especially, putting the financing together and things like that. That takes a lot of just pushing forward.
I appreciate that we have a good community and a lot of good people around who came forward to help us. And I'm sure, even for anybody who is looking to start something new, we have a lot of help around here, just that we need to provide the shout out and approach people, talk and research. We have answers all out there.
Mm-hmm. It's just getting connected to the right ones.
Right.
Yeah. So Eureka Kids, you serve ages newborns to about 6 years old. Is that
6
right?
weeks? 6 weeks to 6 years.
To about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I wanted to come back to dive deeper into what drew you to a childcare business. Was it because, Hema, growing up, your experience and with your grandfather and seeing him, what was the draw to this in particular instead of anything else you could have done?
So while we were doing the research, yes, definitely we knew that we wanted to start something of our own. Now while doing the research, that highlight of the shortage of a quality childcare center was the key focus. And looking around, even for our kids' needs, it was difficult to find a safe place where, we could drop the child and go for work and come back. So with that aspect, we both put our heart into what we are doing, and we felt we could establish something like this where quality is of utmost importance, and quality is not something that we can achieve overnight. It improves over time, and with the amount of quality time that we put in. And when we look into those, we need to look into those minute details day in, day out with the operational stuff, and that is when quality increases. So, and we both had passion for kids as well. So the need for the community plus the passion we had from within, everything gelled well, and we felt, this is something doable for us. And we both were sure that we'll put our sweat and blood into it and we'll make it successful.
And also Hema has a background in teaching, so she's a natural teacher, so and we also had some background in how to manage a few businesses, so all that combined actually, plus the need of the hour and all our research. So
I started my career in teaching. So I was in a teaching position for 7 years, and it eventually is when I moved into IT. I took up the IT role with IBM.
Okay, so that's where the curriculum development comes in.
Right. I have
7+ years of experience as a teacher.
I have, in the past, I have developed curriculum for different topics in the software field. So, yeah.
That is super cool. So you said you have kids ranging from 22 to about 10,
yes.
Right? What do they think of the business? Do they help out? I mean, they're watching and seeing what you all are doing, which I think is amazing. But how are they involved at all in kind of the operations or any part of the business?
Yeah. I mean,
yes and
no. So we were involved. Me and Hema were involved in the beginning a lot during setting up the business. But nowadays, we go there only towards the end of the day to oversee what's going on. We have a very good director, assistant director, and a lot of good staff. I think they manage pretty much day-to-day operations. Kids, when they are available and there is a need, they do step in, whether it's volunteering job, or they need to be in the classroom, or they need to do some cleaning, or help us out with some event that's going on, so, or cleaning up the facility. I mean, they're always there. All our kids have been, other than the 10-year-old, they have been there in some capacity to help us out. Yeah,
and I was going to ask how you kind of balance your jobs with Eureka Kids, and it sounds like it's an amazing team. So can you talk a little about your team and who those people are, and kind of how they work together with yourselves as well?
So we have Ashley Fries as a director. She has been with us for almost a year now, and we have an assistant director role. Amanda Draskowski is the assistant director, and then we have a very good team of lead teachers, assistant teachers, and aide. We have in total around 22 to 24 staff, including the cook. So we have an on-site cook as well. The team is good, but the pandemic last year brought in some staffing challenges, where we lost a couple of teachers who had some existing medical conditions, had to take off work, and that posed some staffing challenges. And that is when I would say, our kids stepped in at a few occasions to help us out, because all of that was not something that was predicted. Right. It just happened, and we just got through, we did overcome those challenges as we were moving along. I'm sure that was the case for everyone. And
Well, I think childcare centers were some of the most challenging, and I can't quite remember. Did you have to shut down, or could you not shut down? You could not shut down.
we did not shut down
Okay.
because I think the childcare was qualified as an essential need because Mayo being a medical town, I think if the nurses and the doctors had to go for a job, they had to drop their kids somewhere, and 90% of our families are Mayo families, so we had to keep the center open. And I would be proud at this point to say that we tried to implement everything even before it was mandated. We mandated the mask and all the cleaning procedures within the facility. We did not have even one case of COVID.
That's incredible. It really is.
Within the staff or within the child. So touch it. I hope that continues. And so I believe we did an amazing job with the fact what was going around.
What was the last year like? Did you see a drop off in the number of kids? Did you have to restrict like groups that could be in rooms? So what does that, I can't even imagine what it was like. It had to have been, something we've never dealt with before.
Right. So since we started in July of 2018, we were growing ever since, and beginning of 2020, we were almost touching the complete enrollments, and that is when COVID hit. So we did see a drop in numbers. We dropped by like maybe 25%.
That's not that
That was
bad.
not that bad, yep. We dropped by 25%, and now, as of today, past few months, we really see a surge in the inquiries and the admissions, and at this point, we are full again.
That's
And our center cannot take any more enrollments until next year of April, so we are full until April of 2022, and we have a wait list that is
That's great.
that just started.
How many kids can you have in the facility?
So we can have around 96
96. Okay.
96 kids.
I was thinking it was around 80, but I couldn't quite remember. Yeah, 96. So that's great. It's gotten really close to where it was before then, which is amazing. That's something I wanted to ask you too about the need for childcare. And I know it's hard to kind of assess right now because it hasn't been normal. But you said when you were starting this in 2017, 2018, there was just such a massive need. There were wait lists forever. As soon as your child was born, you probably needed to get them on a wait list.
Right.
Has anything changed? Has it gotten better as far as have we gotten closer to meeting the need in the community in general for childcare, in your opinions, or what you're seeing? Or is it just hard to assess?
It is hard to assess specifically with what is going on currently at this point, with Mayo announcing a lot of work from home, and most of the jobs are getting remote. It's difficult to assess the market need, but based on what we are seeing, definitely it looks like there are more people who are looking out for care, and somewhere if we are running a wait list, either somebody else has a position vacant, or definitely there should be a shortage at this point, is what I'm thinking as well.
I think the one thing that has changed, and maybe because of the pandemic, is the family childcare.
Oh yeah.
That has taken a big hit because of the COVID and the restrictions. That is, licensing requirements, and so.
And there have been changes to licensing requirements to the family childcare centers as opposed to what it was before. So what we are hearing is a lot of family childcare centers have kind of closed down. Possibly that would be a reason why we are seeing that surge, because we heard a lot of family care centers closed.
And those would be like the at-home.
At-home care,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Even like the work from home though too. Like I have a friend who now works remote from Mayo, and she has a 3-year-old child, and she has childcare for him just because how can you work?
Right, right.
You know, even if you're at home. I don't think they do it every day like they would, but you know, there's still a need, and I do think people are, you know, maybe there will be a percentage that doesn't ever come back in to downtown or wherever, but yeah, people will start now this summer, I think, to get back to some sort of normalcy in terms of work.
Yeah.
Where they're working from, you know? I wanted to end by asking you a question I ask everybody. You know, you said you have full-time jobs, you're kind of in the IT field, plus you're doing this, you know. I'm sure there's some challenging days where you're just exhausted and tired, and it's challenging running a business. What keeps you coming back to doing this? What do you love about being a business owner and Eureka Kids specifically?
I think one thing is, I mean, obviously we have a passion for kids, you know. We have put our heart building Eureka Kids. I still remember when we started, we had a handful of kids. And now it's not a chaos, but the sound of all the kids playing. And we have seen the kids growing up. Like I said, we do full-time job, but at the end of the day, we do visit and see what's going on at the center. We have seen the one thing that keeps us going again and again is seeing those little kids growing up. We have met so many connections and a lot of good families and kids. It's just fun to watch them when they come as an infant and they go to the transition and they start talking in the toddler space, and when they go to the pre-K room and they share, you know, what they have learned. All those things, it's just phenomenal.
Seeing them
how they
grow, learn, talk, I mean, that gives absolute joy and happiness, and definitely that is what keeps us going.
Yeah. And now you've been there for a couple, you know,
3 years.
3 years, so you've really been with some kids from the beginning to now, you know, which is quite the journey to have that impact on a kid and to expose them to what you've been doing is just incredible.
Yeah, we do a graduation when they graduate, you know, even in childcare center. That's silly, but it's fun to see that. You know? It's a great achievement, you know. They learned a lot of things, and then we make sure they are prepared to go to the kindergarten. So that gives us a great joy to see, you know, their growth.
That was my last question for you all. I'll wrap up by asking you for any final thoughts you have that we didn't get to talk about, and where is the best place for people to connect with Eureka Kids and to find out more about what you're doing?
Sure. So just to summarize, basically, Eureka Kids, you can check us out on EurekaKidsMN.com. That's our website. We do have Instagram and Facebook. You can check us out there. Like we said, this is a local family-owned business, and we are making sure basically we do something totally different, and that's the primary reason why we did not went for a franchise route, so we can implement our vision and give it back to a community in some way. It's good to see that, you know, the vision that we had is coming to fruition, and things are changing. It's very satisfying to see things are moving forward. We learned a lot during last year. 2020 has taught us so many things in less amount of time, and that can be seen with so many changes that we have seen how different businesses have adopted. Like in our centers, we never used to give virtual tours, right? But now we are doing a lot of virtual tours, and a lot of things have actually changed, and it's doing good. So we would ask all of you to basically visit our facility, see for yourself how Eureka Kids is different than the rest of the other childcare centers, and visit us and let us know. I mean, for other folks who are entrepreneurs, like Hema said, we have received a lot of help from community. We will be more than happy to help anybody who wants to basically start a business. If it's a childcare, we know how to do things. But if it's
based on our journey, I truly believe for someone to succeed and to achieve something, it's purely passion and hard work that we need to put in, and you definitely achieve it. With business, there is definitely some amount of risk associated with it. So that is an additional aspect that somebody who is looking into starting a business need to have. They should be willing to take that risk. And then if you put your heart, everyone should succeed, would be able to succeed.
Mm-hmm. And I think you can tell when people pour their hearts into things. It definitely shows.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah, well, thank you so much for this conversation today and for what you're doing here in the community and sharing your journey with others. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to share our experiences.
Thanks so much to Hema and Mangesh for coming in and having this great conversation and sharing their journey with you today. You can find links to learn more about Eureka Kids Childcare Center in our show notes. And be sure to check out an article based on this podcast that's coming out tomorrow on the Rochester Rising website. So that's it for us at the podcast today. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time today learning more about entrepreneurs and business development taking place here in Rochester, Minnesota. It's a huge help to us if you subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening in. And if you can take some time to rate the podcast, we'd really appreciate it so that more people can hear the stories of entrepreneurship taking place in Rochester, Minnesota. We'll be back next Wednesday with a brand new show.